Hello, welcome to the second of the design videos where we're talking about GODUS and talking about some of the new features. Today we're going to be talking about single player and multiplayer, but first, Jack, I think you've got some questions from yesterday's video that we did. The community have come back.
Yeah, so we had our video yesterday and we put it on air last night and looked at everyone's feedback on that. And so the first one we got a lot was about the overall about flattening the land. And so, yeah, a lot of people were worried that we're talking about these beautiful mountains and valleys and rivers, and then we're just flattening it all off and it becomes... And that's not the case.
Well, it is the case, but only if you want it to be the case. Yeah. Because here's the interesting thing, is some places in the world are very flat, and there is an efficiency to flatness. American cities are laid out in grids, there is an efficiency to that. There's a cost to that, and that cost is beauty and maybe happiness of the little people. There's a little shot here, which is, we haven't released yet, but it shows you what is going through our mind. As you can see, that this land has been sculpted so there's flat areas for people to settle on, and those flat areas are across lots of mountains. We'll talk about the tornado a little bit later. I love the sheep, by the way. So don't think it as being just a flat, monotonous landscape. It's completely up to you how your worlds, what their worlds are going to look like, and everything that you do has an impact on you as people.
Exactly. So, I mean, our director, Paul, who's worked on every game after Populous, so all Bullfrog games, he's designed this so the mountains have these wonderful crevices of plateaus that you can just build up, so your populations are explored vertically as well as horizontally, which is wonderful.
It is fantastic. What's another question?
So yeah, there was a lot of it was a very contentious issue about gesture-based movement. A lot of people loved that in black and white.
Yes, gesture-based movement. Well, let's go back to this picture again. There's some things I love about gestures, and there's things that I don't like about gestures. I don't like when gestures are confusing, when there are misreads in the original black and white. We tried to implement lots of gestures with the mouse, and we implemented too many of them. And that means you got very confused, and it was very cryptic how you access those gestures. Now with GODUS, what we're going to do is give a power to the way that you cast your miracles. And that power, if we look at this screen here, if I just with the mouse, if I throw this tornado up the hill, now think of that word throw. If I throw it up the hill, if I mix it round with my finger, those are the sort of specific gestures which I love. In other words, knowing that you want to cast a tornado, and then allowing you to modify that tornado with your gestures. And that should work fantastically well on the mouse, and it should equally work fantastically well with your finger or fingers.
Brilliant. Okay, and then one of the other things people were kind of worrying about was micromanaging. They didn't want to have to turn people into disciples and things like that. And there's definitely an interesting thing with GODUS, and that's this lovely relationship between you and your followers. Yeah. And that's essentially that you can't really change people's free will. Your power is changing the world around them, but you need them in order to survive. The more followers you have, the more powerful you are. Yes. So you've got that kind of lovely relationship of you are reinforcing each other. So you don't have to worry so much about managing them and you know, telling them where to go, because the lovely thing about it is that you've got that lovely voyeuristic almost look into their lives and seeing what they're up to.
Here's the thing about this. You will never micromanage your people. Like in black and white, you could pick up a disciple and put them somewhere else, and that meant there was a lot of sort of actions like this all over and over. We are going to give you a finger of God, or the hand of God, which allow you to interact very personally with a follower, but that's not the main way of doing it. That's a side issue. The main thing I can say to you is your people are fascinated with what you do to their land. So if you start flattening an area of land or raising up a mountain or lowering a valley, your people will naturally be fascinated with that. They'll naturally come to that point. So everything's about influence. You know, your people your little people love you as a god, and they are fascinated with what you do. I don't like the idea that you're moving them like troops, like in an RTS. This is all about influence, and it's all about their behaviour and their personality. I want them to be truly terrified if there are these god powers like tornadoes cast, but I want them to be unbelievably delighted if you do give them something called Gift of the Gods. We're going to be talking specifically about this in another video in the next couple of days about Gifts of the Gods and miracles, but don't think you micromanage them at all.
Yep. Okay, so that was some of the issues from the response yesterday. So let's talk about...
Single player, multiplayer.
Yes.
Yes, right. And remember, all of this that we talk about is going to be summarised in a document, and so you'll be able to refer to it and poke it and tweak it. And also remember, please, please, please give us your feedback, because we love this feedback. It's changing our minds as designers on the game, and we're taking a lot of your ideas and putting them through. Like to see more of those ideas, by the way, coming through. Right, let's talk about single player multiplayer. There's a fundamental problem here, isn't there? Some of us like the zen of single player, the calmness
our
of
own
it.
pace,
Yeah.
a perfectly sculpted world.
Exactly. I'm like one of those. I'm one of those people. I like to turtle it. It's called turtling, and it's where you build up your forces. I love that sort of approach. In RTSs, I find if I'm playing an RTS, then I find that my heart just can't take multiplayer for more than a few moments. So single player is very, very important. It's the heart of what GODUS is. But there are times when multiplayer is going to be fantastic. So let me just talk you through this. And again, it's going to be summarised in a document. We're trying to solve this problem where we have two opposing forces, the calmness of single player versus the excitement and adrenaline rush of multiplayer, versus that some people are good at multiplayer and some people are not. And the way we're approaching that is this, and I'm going to draw a little diagram for you. We have got something called, and we're going to have a whole episode on this, something called Homeworld. Homeworld is a zen place, and in Homeworld you interact with your little people. This is where you're crafting the ultimate civilization. And Homeworld is something that's going to take you a long time to sort of kind of build up. You're starting with a few little people. By the end you're going to end up with vast metropolis. Don't think that Homeworld is frenetic. It's not. As your followers expand in Homeworld, as your God powers increase because of the belief that you got, you can take followers from Homeworld into one of three different options, and we may have to do a stretch goal from one of these because they are very, very involved. The three different options are this: multiplayer, I'll do MP because I can't spell multiplayer. Multiplayer, and I love this, multiplayer versus friends. In other words, you versus your friends. You'll have your own little league tables, you'll be able to battle against each other. What you do is you take a number of followers from your home world and you kind of invest those followers in your multiplayer game. You're going to be battling against those other friends that you've got to gods. It's your people versus their people. It's your god powers versus their god powers. And I love the fact that I have friends and I challenge them. Let's go and have a game of GODUS tonight. I really love that. The other one, which is very, very similar to this, is multiplayer versus stranger. Now, I'm going to be a little bit intriguing here because there is these things called cults, which your people are a part of a cult, and you can do things. You think as your cult's like a clan. You can do things in the good of your clans, and this is I think the most biggest adrenaline rush is when you are battling against someone you don't know, someone who has who's got another set of people, someone who may have another set of beliefs. Someone you maybe think of yourself as a good god, you may be fighting a stranger against an evil god. Again, you take followers from your homeworld. You invest them in this battle. If you win these multiplayer battles, you will get followers and belief back to return to your homeworld, which is a great increase in the population and the power of your homeworld. And then the third and the most important element, again taking followers from your homeworld and putting it into something called a crusade, which is like a sequence. I can't spell a crusade. I'll rub it out. Crusade. God, my Twitter's going to be alive with me not being able to spell now. A crusade, and crusade is like a series of challenges, of single-player challenges. It's you versus a themed gods that we have got. It's like the story mode that you're playing through. Again, you're taking your followers from your homeworld, you're investing them in the crusade. That crusade is very single player. And this way, with these three, we've got the adrenaline rush of multiplayer versus strangers for your cult or clans. We've got the intimacy of multiplayer versus your friends. And we've got the slightly more relaxing single player. So we've got all three. Now the stretch for us is this, and I'd love to do this. I would absolutely adore to do this, but these guys, this person in particular, Gary, he's going to be the head of the programming side here. His brow is furrowed about this. I'd love cooperative multiplayer. I'd love the idea that it's me and my people plus you and your people against 2 other people. For me, that is how you redefine multiplayer. Not only battling 1-on-1, but battling 2 versus 2. But that may be a stretch goal. And that applies to, and here's the cool thing, all 3 of these. So, 2 gods versus 2 friends versus 2 friends, 2 friends versus 2 strangers, or 2 friends in the crusade. And that should all work, but it is a lot more effort. So that way, I think doing this in this way, we should be able to solve that problem. The zen of single player versus the adrenaline rush of multiplayer. Anyway, that is just about it for this video. Tomorrow we're going to be answering some of your questions, so please keep them coming through. We're also going to be starting to talk about God powers, gift of the gods, and a little bit more about how the little people behave. Again, thank you very much for watching. Thank you so much for supporting our Kickstarter, and we really appreciate your pledges. We're very excited to receive those pledges, and super excited to receive your feedback. Thank you very much.